If you'll turn your attention to the 23rd division of the book of Psalm, perhaps the most familiar passage of Scripture in the whole Bible. The psalmist David said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all of the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." This is part 6 in the series, Awesome. Awesome. This is a whole theology of God wrapped up in one psalm. It is David as a shepherd who is speaking this as though he is a sheep. And it is true that you can be both shepherd and sheep. I understand, because I'm a shepherd and a sheep. I'm a shepherd entrusted to the care of this flock, and yet I'm a sheep because the Lord is my shepherd. I understand what it is to be both a teacher and a student all at the same time. It's not one or the other, it's both and. And so David is writing the psalm personifying a sheep for us. He's giving a sheep a voice and human-like characteristics. And David is saying that I'm a sheep, I'm a sheep, and he makes me lie down. Because you see, sheep will not lie down when they're anxious. They will not lie down when they are full of fear and anxiety. They won't lie down when they are hungry. So it's like he has to meet some needs before he can actually get me to lie down. But he makes me to lie down. Even when stuff is in an uproar in my life, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters so I can get my soul back, my mind back, because stuff in this world can make you lose your soul trying to pursue stuff and deal with people and all of that. And he knows that you can lose your mind. And that's why David wraps a whole theology up in the 23rd Psalm, that he leads me beside the still waters, so that I can look down into those waters and get a true reflection of myself and see the backdrop of God's blue sky over my head, reminding me that God is in control, and that while things are swarming around in my little pea brain down here, there's a whole big God who made the heavens, somebody who's bigger than you and I, who's up there, that has created the mountains and the rivers, and he's there super ruling, watching over me. And so he restores my soul whenever my soul gets it loses its calibration. God restores my soul, and he leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And then he says that even when I get afraid, because there's some scary stuff that can happen to you in this life. When I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, he says, God, you're still going to be with me. Even when I'm dealing with shadowy things, when I can't make it out, when I don't know exactly what is your will, when I don't understand after you pulled a move and you didn't explain it to me ahead of time, and I didn't see this coming. It caught me from the blind side. When I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it says, I will not fear. Why not? Because you're with me. When God is with you, no matter what it is that you're dealing with, no matter how big the threat is, no matter how big the Goliath is, no matter how serious the diagnosis is, when God is with you, no matter what could happen in your life, no matter who walks out of your life or who comes into your life, is anything too hard for the Lord? And he just reminds us, I got this. The Lord reminds us that I'm the shepherd. I'm the shepherd. I got a staff. I can rescue you if necessary. And on the other end of the staff is a pointed end where I can ward off the enemy. I can fight the devil. I can keep enemies at bay. When wolves try to come after you and attack you, things that you couldn't see coming, the shepherd keeps watch over the flock by night. It is the shepherd's job. That's why we can lay down and go to sleep, because Big Daddy is with us. I'm glad that we got Big Daddy with us. I know Big Mama can cook, but Big Daddy, my God, you need Big Daddy every now and then. I don't know about you, But if I ever got in trouble, I wasn't calling for my mama. I was calling for my daddy. My daddy was fierce. My daddy was 5'8" and 128 pounds, but he was fierce. And I just knew if daddy was there, it was all right. It was all right. And when he got promoted to heaven, Big Daddy now. Big Daddy, my granddaddy, I always called him Big Daddy. I didn't know any other name for him. I barely know his real name because I always called him Big Daddy. And that was his name, was Big Daddy. When I heard my grandmama call him, he was Big Daddy. And he was Big Daddy to me. That's the only name that I know for my granddaddy is Big Daddy. Well, the Lord is my shepherd. He's Big Daddy. And you don't be afraid when Big Daddy is with you because he's got your back. And Big Daddy's freezer was always full. It was just loaded down. He prepares a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. And he anoints my head with oil. The reason that you have to anoint a sheep's head with oil is because pests, gnats, bot flies, and all kind of nasal flies try to go up, and they have no defense system against it. So they would create this concoction of ointment where it was linseed oil and sulfur and tar, and it created this thick like paste of an ointment that you put smeared on the sheep's head, and the smell of that sulfur repelled insects from you. God can anoint you with stuff that will drive demonic things away from your life. When you have no defense mechanisms, he anoints my head with oil, because the devil always wants to get in your head. He always wants to mess with your head and make you think that God is not with you. And he'll make you think that because some negative things happen to you that God doesn't love you anymore. But the devil is a liar. He's a liar. He's just trying to mess with your head. That's just a gnat that's flying around your head. A gnat is a negative automatic thought. And every time that you deal with a gnat, you have to give it a pat, a positive automatic thought. To say, no, the blessing of the Lord is with me. God is with me. God is helping me. God is leading me. God is helping me. But I focus this week as we culminate this whole series on this chapter in verse 6 here, where he says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You see, because the Lord is your shepherd, you have a surety, you have a certainty, you have a confidence that goodness and mercy follow you all the days of your life. They follow you. That's a covenant blessing, that these things will follow you. I want you to realize you are the apple of God's eye, flaws and all, but you're the apple of God's eye. He knows you and loves you in spite of you. That's the awesome mercy of God. You have a privileged position with God just because he loves you. We love him because he first loved us. Now listen, it would be so easy for us to declare, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all of the days of my life, and I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It's so easy to declare that when all of your bills are paid. And when there's no tension in your relationships. But what in the world do you do if you got pain in your body? If you got a medical diagnosis? Can you still confidently declare, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life? What do you do if you've got a sickness that is eating at you or eating at a loved one in your life? Their body is emaciating away, and they're dealing with excruciating pain, and you're asking God to heal them, and it seems like the heavens are brass to you, and you're not getting through, and you wonder, God, is goodness really? Am I going through, and I'm having trouble sleeping at night now? If you get laid off of your job because of downsizing, and because they've got automation through robotics or artificial intelligence that is phasing your job out, and now you're wondering, how in the world am I going to be employed? What am I going to do now? How am I going to make it now? Can you still then confidently say, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life? And when your credit score is messed up, when your spouse, you're having trouble in your marriage, can you still confidently declare that surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all of the days of my life? What do you do when people that you banked on, folks that you thought were your real friend, and then you discover later on that this person was a Judas? That was a betrayal. a betrayer that was standing in your life that you gave access to you and they manipulated you. They told information that you shared with them in confidence and they betrayed your trust. Is the Lord still good to you at a time like that? And so you see, it's at times like that that you are challenged to say, God, I've got to trust you. I've got to trust you. I mean, if I could feel money in my pocket, I'd believe I was blessed. Can you believe that you're blessed when your pockets are empty? Here's the deal. Faith that is not tested cannot be trusted. You don't know how strong something is until it goes through a test. But faith that is not tested cannot be trusted. If it's not tested, it can't be trusted. If you ever buy some glue, the glue has been tested up to so many pounds. And they can tell you that it will hold up to 60 pounds or up to 100 pounds or whatever the strength of it to which it has been tested. And how would you know how much it could hold if you've never tested it? And that's why I tell you that faith that is not trusted cannot be, if it's not tested, it can't be trusted. Faith that's not tested cannot be trusted. So don't get upset with God when he's testing your faith just to prove to you that it can hold even when people walk out of your life. That faith is still good even when it looks like everything is falling to pieces in your life. That he says, I got this. The Lord is my shepherd. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me. Even when I feel like I'm falling apart. Because faith that is not tested cannot be trusted. I wouldn't have a faith that couldn't stand the test. If it's the real deal, if it is the real deal. I mean, if I got on a wig, don't pull my hair. But if I know that this is connected to my roots, it may be gray, but it's mine. If you pull this, you can't snatch it off. And maybe God just trusts you because he said, I have given you something that is real. And you don't know how strong it is until you got to put all of your weight on it. Have you ever injured a joint and as you are being rehabilitated, when you first put all of your weight back down on that leg, and when you ever put all of that weight on your back again, when you got to get up, because you know if you move in a certain kind of way, you can touch a nerve that will feel like you're putting 1,000 volts of electricity. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And it can nearly paralyze you with pain if you just move in a certain way. But when you believe that the healing has been consummated, you put all of your weight down on it. But I declare to you, when you know that God has said, with his stripes I'm healed, even while you're feeling a lump, you got to declare, I am healed. I am healed. I am healed. I'm healed while I'm hurting. I'm healed while I'm praising. I'm healed. I'm healed. I may not feel it, but I'm healed in the name of Jesus. You got to declare that because the Lord is my shepherd. Your faith will be tested. It will be tested. Think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to test you. He says, don't think it is strange. It's not strange. And here's the great conundrum with which we wrestle. It is this great question, that when times are bad, is God still good? When times are bad, is God still good? You're going to experience difficult times. Sometimes you're going to feel like giving up. Sometimes you'll be angry with God because you said, God, you know, I've been serving you. I've been tithing, I've been praying, I've been fasting. God, how could you let this happen? And it'll test you. Sometimes you'll feel like your prayers are not getting over the ceiling. And you'll just wonder. But it's the thing that we learn God in hills and valleys. Hills and valleys. We always just want the glorious mountaintop experiences. But your best lessons are actually learned down in the valley. Rock bottom teaches you lessons that mountaintops never will. When you get to the rock bottom, that rock bottom lesson is where you discover that Jesus is the rock, that you're on a solid foundation, that you can't go any lower than where you are right now, and God becomes so real to you, where you say, God is. You have an epiphany in your rock bottom experience, more so than on the mountaintop. It's when you're in a low place, when you messed up, when you're in the doghouse, when you're in jail, when you're in a hospital bed, when you've lost your job, when you're wrestling with depression. That's where you're in that rock bottom experience that you learn some lessons that the mountaintop will never teach you. But the key is that whenever you're going through some situations like that, the key is to keep on trusting God. It's to keep on going with God. Keep following the shepherd. Keep following the shepherd. Just keep going with the shepherd. Remember, it was Winston Churchill that said that if you're going through hell, keep going. Hell is not your destination. Keep going. Stay faithful. The Apostle Paul, writing to the church at Galatia, said it a little different in Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9. He said, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. Now listen, if the Holy Ghost had to say this through the Apostle Paul to the church at Galatia, he wouldn't have said, let's not get tired of doing good if we don't get tired of doing good. I mean, this is grown folks' church. Now, can we be real? Have you ever been in a position where you feel like I'm tired of being the good at two shoes all the time? I'm tired of doing all of this and that and other. I've been doing all of this. I'm getting tired of this because your husband hadn't come yet. Your wife hadn't come yet. You say, I'm getting tired of this. Oh, y'all better be real with me in this place here. Now. But he says, but this is why he reminded us in Galatians 6:9. Put it back up again so they can see it. Let's not get tired of doing what is good. Let's not get tired. He wouldn't have told us that if the temptation to get tired wasn't there. And he says, at just the right time, at just the right time, not when you're frustrated, at just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessings if we don't give up. You will reap in due season if you faint not, if you don't give up. He says, so let's not get tired of doing what's right. Keep on doing the right thing. Keep on trusting. Keep on fasting. Keep on praying. I've had people to say, well, I'm tired of praying. Really? Let's not get tired of doing what is good. Prayer is a good thing. Let's not get tired of praying. I know the temptation, but he has to remind us why. Because there is a harvest of blessings that will come at the right time. There's a harvest of blessings that's coming your way. Remember, faith that is not tested cannot be trusted. He's already told us, Jesus already told us, he says, in the world you will have tribulation. But be of good cheer, I have already overcome the world. He reminds us in James chapter 1 and verse 12. Notice what he said here. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, temptations, tests, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. When he says that God will give you the crown of life, this is not the crown of existence. It's the crown of life. There are some people that are alive, but they're not living, they're existing. They're just getting up and going through the motions every day. They're depressed. They don't have the joy of the Lord in them. They're just going through the motions every day, getting up, going to work, coming back home, cooking dinner, washing clothes, and they're in a rat race in this cycle going over and over and over and over and over again. And he's reminding us here, don't just live your life in that, because if you'll stay faithful to God, if you're able to endure and stand the test, you're going to get a crown of life where you're really living and thriving, and you've got joy and you've got peace and you've got a contentment on the inside of you that reminds you that God is with you no matter what. Whenever you're in this place and it doesn't look like goodness and mercy are following you, just remember the veracity of Romans 8:28. He reminds us, and we know this is an assurance, not we think, not we hope, but we know not with our fingers crossed, not knocking on wood. He said, and we know that all things work for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. We know that. We know that. We know that. We know that we're going to reap in due season if we don't give up, if we don't quit, if we persevere through the test. We're going to get the crown of life. We know that it's going to work out for our good. Even if they walked out on you, even if you lost this, you got to lose bad things in order that something better can come in its place. You wonder how in the world you could have people to present themselves like friends in your life. May I just say that, remind you of this, that if you don't lose the Judas in your life, you'll never get the Paul. Judas hanged himself, and they cast lots to replace him, and the lots fell on a man by the name of Matthias. But Matthias was man's choice. Paul was God's choice. And Paul is the one that gave us the book of Galatia. Paul is the one that gave us the book of 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Paul is the one that gave us 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Paul is the one that gave us the book of Colossians. Paul is the one that gave us the book of Philippians. Paul here writing nearly 2/3 of the New Testament. And he was the replacement because God had to get a betrayer out of the way. Betrayal only exposes what you never had anyhow. And God will replace if you just keep your hopes up, because it's a down day if somebody betrays you and turns you over and it ends up killing you.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. We pray that this message has encouraged, equipped, and empowered you to live a more victorious life. Join us next time for Power for Living with Dale C. Bronner, where revelation is power, power for living.